I need to start by thanking the school for renovating their trust in my work. And I need to thank all the students because they continuously challenge my way of thinking. And I have to say that the students that are graduating this year brought to the program very different points of view. So the broadening of the program to different nationalities and different historical and geographical backgrounds have enriched the studio experience, the relation and the confrontation between students. And, it seems easy to talk about globalization, from an external point of view, but to live every day the experience of the other has taught me a lot, and has taught me to, deal with things that I probably gave for granted. So I understood by working with Alina that a spiritual experience can be contained in a dot. Alina told me how Western art confused her sense of spiritual because it's too full of stories, religious stories that distracted her concentration toward the spiritual experience. Her Eastern and Muslim point of view and her miniature painting background trained her in a slow, focus, both technical and meditative approach, all based on the dots and lines and patterns to fill. This is a spiritual experience that exceeds art because it's a way of thinking and at the same time becomes formalized in art objects. Alina has found a new way of reaching that way of thinking after these 2 years in Florence and in the program. And the vehicle to do this has been discovering her position in the universe of science, putting herself in her practice, her features, her expressions. Drawing has been the medium that Alina masters, and though she has experimented in the first year with multimedia and sculpture, she returned to it, investigating self-portraiture as a way of revealing inner feelings and outer perceptions. She put herself in the work and she unveiled what was always been hidden. And all this happened through a rigorous formal research that freed her controlled and contained lines into newly perceived signs. Forgive my English, I will make a lot of mistakes. These signs brought Alina, who never stops working to explore printmaking, concentrating on monotypes. And here happened, so in her last body of work, happened the opposite of what happened in her portraits, that were done with a black sign on the white field of the paper. In the monotype, a deep velvety black field lets a white abstract sign maintain a vague memory of a human head shape, but goes abstract again and moves through the repetition and line to create a body of work that to me moves in space like music and sounds as a spiritual music of signs that dance from one sheet to the other. Alina has made these 2 years a very important step in her growth as an artist, finding herself in her work, finding a position in the contemporary art debate, and finding a sign that is her and her only. The different personality that lived together in this program see the work of Alina near the one of Rachel. And Rachel arrived here as a scientist, as a chemist that wanted to find a new language to talk about science, and became a very strong and provocative voice engaged in social art through the form of sequential art and writing comic books. Rachel's language has expanded the first years everywhere: objects, words, drawings, printmaking, installations. Her imagination was searching for new ways of talking about science, and this happened through installation and performance in which Rachel involved the public and to share the passion she felt about the topics that she analyzed. Her multiform experience in the first year led her to understand that one of the essential factors in her art was time, more than space. So time became the way she thinks the form and acquired a narrative intention and quality. Drawing stories, and this was already happening in her beautiful sketchbooks, which are full of signs and writing and color figures all over. So drawing stories became her obsession, and this was already present in some of the installative work. And time took the form of sequence of drawings. Freeing her voice meant also to free her subjects. So science, which was her first interest, opened up to a deeper understanding of reality around her. And she became also a very political artist. All this was treated with rigor and irony at the same time. Her work is a strong commentary on the everyday political situation, particularly in the States, and her characters contribute to rewrite the history, the contemporary history. Art gave Rachel the possibility of creating a journey that began with the contemplation of time and that ends with the endless possibility that time involves, realizing many stories that can go in many directions. Rachel found her voice so particular and responding to her American perspective by allowing herself to come so far away. And I think this is one of the goals of this program, to help the students to find their own language. And being so far away from home, they better understand who they are. I truly think that Rachel, with the help of the community that was around her, the professors, has been very successful and will grow very much and autonomously in the years to come. Julia loves nature and art and has worked all her time on different possibilities of natural growth, concentrating on 2D and 3D, and a quiet nature, slow and rarefied, expanded in her studio since the first year, from drawings on sheets that were layered or glued together so to form a rhizomatic system, to big drawings mixed with painting on the wall that immersed us in a northern forest. All the vegetal elements were present in her studio. Seeds, leaves, branches, and trees have surrounded her these 2 years. And these elements were morphing into a new nature, were growing from the organic into the artistic, using both new approaches and traditional techniques. So branches burned away to leave their space to bronze, or leaves became transparent retina replicas. Julia mimics nature and transforms it. She works in internal white cube space that fuse and exaggerate the rarefaction of her natural atmosphere. That whiteness becomes a tranquil state of mind, a place that surrounds us and makes us think about the contraposition of the uncontrollable growth of nature, contraposed to the rationality of the geometric architecture. In her final paper, she mentioned Mondrian, and I like very much this parallel with her work, even obviously they are very different, because Julia's work touches the extreme of this tension that begins with the natural and organic, and then this natural and organic is forced to live within the frames and the geometric of the architectural white space. Her two-dimensional initial nature of painter and drawer grew into a special sensibility for space, with an important attention to display of these roots and branches and leaves that find themselves apparently out of context, but actually in a new formal art discourse that redefined their nature as art. Nature and culture fuse in Julia's work and achieve a new identity, and she poses us a question, how much nature is still nature and how much is transformed by humans. And I think this question is open, and Julia will continue to experience and find new, beautiful formal solution. And last but not least, Koyal, that brought to the life of the studio a quiet and secret magic, a poetic and yet strong political presence. She arrived here with a conceptual and open participatory practice, interest in collective memory as a living force. Her strong commitment to labor and women's issues combined in SACI with her interest and dedication to more traditional practice, such as painting, that she had not experienced before. Koyal was very open to be contaminated by the culture she found herself immersed in. She learned Italian to be able to look herself around out of the perimeter of the school, which is actually something that many of you did, but working in contact with different communities in the city. She participated in collective performances with Virgilio Sieni and opened her work to a more performative level. Her strong conceptual and political dimension has been enriched by the introduction in her practice to textile, which combined with painting, sound, and an intense installative dimension brought Koyal to focus on different layers and complexities in spaces that she's been able to blend in different elements, creating beautiful, immersive spaces. She could, with all these elements that she learned here, return to urgent issues that she treated in her country related to her culture, creating ethereal places that are deeply engaging with the viewer. Koyal has been able in these 2 years to find a perfect balance between a representational, a poetical, and a political dimension in a very personal and original way that responds to the experience that she carried with her and the ones that she had here. So thank you to all of you.